Hello again, it's me Justin. I'm going to do a review for Trip to the Moon by George Melies. First off, I had to watch this on YouTube because it's not out on DVD, obviously, at least not to my knowledge. Couldn't find it on Netflix, so I just figured, what the heck, it's probably on YouTube, and of course it was. So I watched it, and to let you know first about my how I plan to do my reviews. Probably gonna just write stuff down and then talk about like certain things of the movie that I enjoyed, or stuff I learned about the movie from like Wikipedia or whatnot, and just give a certain flair to it. And yeah, Trip to the Moon, 1902, George Melies. First thing off about this movie that's it's a little funny to me is the fact that everyone that's involved with it is now dead because it came out in 1902. So like it's just funny to think that like every single person that's involved in it, from George Melies, the director himself, just down to the guy who probably loaded the film into the camera, is now 6 feet under. So I think we should all just take a moment of silence for the people that made this movie and are now no longer with us. So let's take a moment of silence. Okay, I tried to fart and be a smartass, but it didn't work out. So I'm really sorry for everyone that's now no longer with us. I'm sure you're all in a better place. Anyway, the second thing about a trip to the moon is I got to thinking, like, what if I had lived back then? What would I have thought? And then it got me thinking of what would I have been doing? I mean, me, I'm a pretty artistic guy, so I was thinking, I'd probably be like a painter or a writer, or maybe playing jazz band, even though that's really early jazz. That's like before Dixieland Jazz Band and all. That's a whole other subject that I could get into. So I'm sure I probably would have seen this movie. I mean, from what I've read on Wikipedia, and which brings me to my third little thing about A Trip to the Moon is what were the movie critics like back then? And apparently, from what I read on Wikipedia, it was a very big hit back then. Obviously, for its time, it was probably, it's considered the first ever movie, even though, they were still, they still weren't really, they really weren't considered movies as per se as what we think of movies as today. So, fourth point I'd like to make about Trip to the Moon is obviously the big cultural influence it's had over the years. The biggest one obviously being the Smashing Pumpkins, and their music video Tonight Tonight basically is an homage, a straight up homage to A Trip to the Moon. Obviously, great song. Smashing Pumpkins, the first band I ever listened to way back when I was in fourth grade, the second time. Anyway. Moving on, I got to thinking, what if Melies had any idea of the impact that this movie would have, or how should I say this, if he had any inkling that one day we would actually be going to the moon, as we did many years later after he died. In 1938, 31 years later, they would go to the moon on Apollo 11. So, supposedly, I mean, yeah, I'm sure there's all those theorists out there that said we really didn't go to the moon, but Penn and Teller's bullshit, disproved that theory altogether. So, yeah, it's for all you theorists out there that say we didn't go to the moon, check out that Penn and Teller's episode of bullshit that proves that you're full of bullshit, obviously. Number 6 on my little list of things is how the heck are they walking on the moon like it's the Earth? I mean, yes, you've got to suspend disbelief because it's a movie, and no one had been to the moon at that point. But I think the laws of gravity and all that were out by then. So like, but then again, nobody had gone into space, so I guess they really didn't know. So, I can, I guess for the time, you could let it slide. But looking at it now, what we know, because if you go into space, you're gonna float, obviously. But back then they didn't know. So like, back then, it was a magical thing, for everybody who saw that movie. But then it leads me to my next point. There's a part in it where it starts snowing on the moon, and I mean that's just, looking at it now, it comes off as laughable. Like, snow on the moon. I mean that's just absurd. I mean it's absurd. And then like moving on to point 8. First time they blow a person up in a movie. I think it is. If you don't know what I'm getting at is there's a scene in it where like there's Martians or I believe they're called Denatals or Senatals on the moon, and to defeat them, the astronauts that go up in the space shuttle that crash into the moon. They beat them by taking umbrellas and bopping them over the head. So like maybe that's like that was the influence that the whole zombie craze got. How to defeat zombies by decapitating the head, or killing the brain. But anyway, moving on. The escape from the moon. Oh my god, that was so funny. It's like they literally fall off the cliff and then they land into the ocean. It was just totally absurdly funny to me. It's just these guys weren't movie makers, like you think of like a Martin Scorsese or a David Lynch. These guys were just, I think they were just, they were experimenting with a new invention, and they were just looking, I think, to make profit, and which really leads me to my 11th and final point is Thomas Edison making copies of this in the USA and making a profit off of them, while George Melies became a broken man. Yep, that Edison, always seemed to be shitting on the little guy and, making a profit for himself. So, here's to you, Edison, and here's to George Melies, and here's to A Trip to the Moon, the first movie ever, and, like, it just, watch it just, for history's sake. It's a very cute, yes, I'm going to use the word cute. It's a very cute little film, and it's just, by today's standards, it's very laughable. So, like, all in all, I enjoyed it for history's sake because I'm a big movie buff, and that's really it. I mean, just watch it. It's just for, like I said, for history's sake. And now, going into my book of 1001 movies you must see before you die, the next movie on the list after Trip to the Moon is The Great Train Robbery by director Edward S. Porter. That will be my next review, so look for that in the near future. I hope you've enjoyed this review, and check out A Trip to the Moon for the final time, history's sake. Take care, people. Bye-bye.